Okay, back for another devlog.
This is the game that I've been working on as a part-time solo indie dev for over 2 years now, where you return to an abandoned game project only to find that the NPCs have kept working on the game while you were gone, and it's up to you to work with the NPCs to restore the game and the world they live in, or choose to plunge them further into chaos. I've also been recording my journey of working on this game the entire time.
I am on a roll with actually recording these somehow. So, just jumping straight into it, like always. This devlog, I really wanted to actually just talk more coherently about the entire process that I've been kind of going through of closing the loop on my game. This has been something that I've kind of struggled with, honestly, for a little while, figuring out how can I tie all of these systems and all of the mechanics of my game into one another. Because, this is kind of like a sandboxy style game. It's a little more open-ended, a little bit more focused on the player's choice and the decisions that they make in the game, and I want to keep it that way. But at the same time, I want someone who jumps into the game and is playing it for the first time to not just feel lost. I want them to have an actual, motivation and goal when they start the game and when they play the game, because I just feel like it's a lot more fun for games. Personally, that's just what I like. I like having more of a goal-based, narrative-based type of game, and there will be a storyline for this game that is a big focus, but at the same time I still want, like I said, to also give the freedom to the player to play the game how they want, so you don't necessarily need to stick to just a linear storyline as well. And I was having a really tough time kind of balancing those two ideas, having player choices, but also having more of a linear direction to the game. And that kind of just led me all to this little goal that I've been working on for the past 2 weeks, which was closing the game loop, trying to make it so that there was concrete gameplay for this game in which the player felt like they were progressing through both the story and just the actual gameplay itself. And in order to do that, I mentioned in the last devlog, I did a couple things. I made it so that your stats actually have a lot more weight in the game. Things like hunger will decay over time. Your health also has more of a chance to decay and get damaged now due to these corruption events that occurred towards the end of the day in the game. I also shortened the day-night cycle. There's no night cycle, just the day cycle. And my idea kind of behind that was that in the early game, the days are kind of going to be a lot shorter, and this is intentional. You should only be able to survive for so long during the day, and therefore you kind of get a lower stability score, which is also another thing that I just recently introduced in the gameplay. This is a cumulative score of all of the things that the player is able to kind of accomplish throughout a day. Right now, I'm still just figuring out those numbers as well. I'm basically able to, though, pull a lot of the information that I already have in the systems I built, and I'm just trying to figure out how to quantify it in a way that is going to make sense and is going to be able to kind of match the pace of the game. And I think this is going to require a lot of testing, honestly. I don't think that there's any other way to really just think of it. So the stability score is going to tie directly into the time that the player is able to kind of put into the game, into the days of the game. And in the beginning of the game, this is intentionally going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit faster paced, I think. But who knows? Like I said, I might change that up. All of this, though, has been implemented, a little bit higher stakes for the game. The chance of you dying of hunger if you just kind of stand there and don't do anything is actually possible now. But, I still felt like something was kind of missing overall from the system, from the just motivation, that I want to give the player. And that is where the glitch system ties in. And now I have already fully kind of just started implementing the system as an experiment to see if I felt like it fit with what I want the gameplay to be. But the glitch system is essentially this idea. At the end of the player's day, they get this score. You know, it's going to be a lot lower in the beginning by design, so the stability of the game will just be less. And because of that, new glitches are going to spawn within the game the next day. And glitches are essentially just going to be events in the game where systems in the game will break. So for now, I've just been setting up this system in concept, trying to get it to work, trying to see if I feel like the system is going to be something that works with the gameplay. And right now, I've just kind of been doing like a proof of concept, so setting everything up to basically trigger these glitches the next day after the player dies and needs to respawn and get this stability score. Right now, like I said, the numbers are completely arbitrary. I'm just kind of spawning all of the glitches that I have implemented, which right now is just 2 that I've set up because we're trying to keep the scope small. Because we're still trying to just wrap everything up like I mentioned. Keeping the scope small, the 2 glitches that I've implemented in the game so far this week are first a glitch with the structures in the system, which ties back into our donation system that I set up like 2 weeks ago. So now there is a chance that any of the structures in the game that you can donate to, so there's 3 bridges and 2 sets of stairs actually in the game on the map as of just how it is right now. And there's basically just a chance that if your stability score in the game is low enough, then one of these might glitch, and in that case it means it just goes to the broken state, meaning that the player and the NPCs now have to donate to restore this structure. And I'm keeping this pretty low for the moment, so you just need to donate like a bunch of wood pretty much, which is the most common resource in the game, in order to rebuild the structure. The NPCs will do it as well, so I think that this kind of gives a good like easy short-term goal of like, okay, something is broken and it needs to be fixed, and the player might not even necessarily be the one that has to fix it. The NPCs might do this because it's just such a small, kind of easily obtainable goal. And then if you do manage to, you know, fix something like a broken bridge throughout the day, then your stability score will kind of go up a little bit, and there's a chance that the next day it's less likely that this will happen. So you see, it kind of all feeds back into itself. That's at least the idea that I'm trying to implement with this whole tying up the game loop thing. The second glitch that I have implemented in the game as a proof of concept was slightly by accident. So I had this ancient script in the game. This isn't the first time I've had this idea, essentially. So this script was setting up like a light glitch in the game. The problem was I had the script, I wasn't really using it anywhere, and I was like, perfect, I'll just use this, I already have it. And intentionally what I wanted was to turn off all of these like streetlights in the game actually, and make it so they were just off and the map was a little bit darker. But what I didn't foresee was that where I am calling the script actually is in my essential scene, which only contains things like the main map and the main camera and the main lights and the player and all of my essential scripts essentially does is it just finds all of the lights in the scene and then turns them off. So because this was not in my main scene with all of these streetlights, it actually turned the sun off in the game. That's the only light in the essential scene, is just the main light. Yeah, this was not actually intentional. I was intending to turn off the streetlights in the game, and then I ended up just turning off the main light in the game, which is essentially the sun. But I think it actually looks really cool, so I'm 100% keeping this. I might just make another script that does what I was intending, but having the main light off in the game actually creates this really cool effect with the streetlights in the game, where you can still kind of get light from those sources, but it's still really hard to also see in the game. So this glitch essentially is going to be a more complicated glitch, is my plan. In order to fix the sun in the game, you will need to go to the power plant. And here there is a control panel that will be able to switch from a broken or fixed state depending on, if this glitch is active. I'm still kind of working on this, but I would like to make this more of like a multi-step kind of quest that you need to do to fix. So eventually you will need to essentially craft an item and then place that in the control panel. And that will fix the power plant. But there's going to be a couple steps in order for you to get to this point that will have to tie into you collecting resources from different systems in the game. So I haven't really exactly figured out what I want like the recipe for fixing the power plant to be and stuff like that yet, but it'll probably involve collecting resources from this data river that I have nearby, potentially maybe talking to a couple NPCs to have them gather resources for you. Not really, like I said, exactly sure of the way I'm going to get this all to work, but I do want it to be more of a multi-step kind of process to fixing a bigger glitch like this that's really like impacting the world. And then eventually the goal of the player will be to make it so that if a glitch like this happens again, they can fix it a lot more easily, maybe even just automate the process entirely. And that is going to be because these glitches will involve systems that are also kind of tied back into the NPC system. So eventually, once you have kind of built up your relationships, friendships with the NPCs, and also just maybe made more of an effort to kind of upgrade things and make things a little bit more efficient, you can have NPCs just do this task for you instead. At least that's my goal for the game right now, and for tying everything in the game loop together with this glitch system. And I think this system just going forward is going to be really interesting because I have a lot of inspiration for things that I can potentially put into this system. A lot of bugs in the game that actually might be really kind of cool to be glitches. Things like the crabs just relentlessly spawning everywhere, time perpetually going on forever, or increasing at twice the speed, tanking the frame rate in certain areas. I don't know about this one. That one might be a little risky. We'll table that one for now, maybe. Everything that is a bug, that is a glitch, could potentially be a feature that actually ties into this real system of the game, and I think that this just it provides a little more excitement, a little more of a goal for the player, and I'm still just testing it out. I think that's really the only way to be able to see if the game is fun, if the gameplay works, and I plan on just adding more of these events and having them tie into the greater game, the greater plot line. The goal is just to take everything and smush it together. I don't know. Okay, that's pretty much it for this devlog though. I will see you in the next one. Bye.